GM, can someone hear? Is the sound working?
Yep, we are waiting
Allowed
about
us
3
to speak.
minutes.
So, hi everyone. Oh, can you hear me, guys?
Yep, can hear.
Welcome everyone. From my name is Dimitri. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer of the project. Today we have an amazing guest to talk to, Simon from Eclipsify. Simon, hi. How are you doing? How is your Thursday going?
Yeah, hey, how you doing? It's good. Thursday's almost over. Yeah, it's been a busy day for sure. Lots of work to be done. So yeah, pretty hectic, but doing well. How are you? Where you based? Hello.
Sorry, Dmitry has some problems. Please wait 1 minute. Some problems with microphone.
Yeah, I can hear KOLO main account, but I cannot hear Simon for some reason. Let me try to rejoin the space because I guess X is facing some issues as it usually does. So basically, I will try to rejoin and we will continue with our conversation.
Sorry, guys, for these troubles, but sometimes this happens. So let's try now.
I can't hear Dimitri. Were you speaking before?
All right, check 111.
Yep, that works. Can you hear me back?
Thing if right now.
Can you hear me, Dimitri?
Okay, it seems like Dmitry doesn't hear you.
All right,
Oh man,
Simon,
I'll jump out and
could
jump
you
back
please
in.
let's give it a try. All right, I can finally hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep. It's working. Wow.
Okay.
Congratulations, guys.
Wow, finally.
All
We
right.
get
So,
the show on the road.
yeah, let's start it over. Simon, could you please share with our listeners a couple of words about yourself? And if you could Eclipsify main idea is in just a couple of sentences, how would you do it?
Yeah, so if I had a couple of sentences, so I'm Simon. I'm CEO and co-founder of Eclipsify. We've been building about 2 years now. Home base is on the Neutron ecosystem in Cosmos, which is our main focus. We are multi-chain, but our key focuses have been more so focused on the Cosmos ecosystem. So we are building a token launchpad. And one of the key focuses of, I guess, Eclipsify as a launchpad has been how can we focus more on the sustainability and quality of projects? And some of that really comes down to like the ability to properly support the projects that we're bringing through the pipelines. We are releasing some new launch mechanisms and focusing on being able to offer a bit more customizability to projects. And at the moment, we're actually working on a project called Equinox, a product called Equinox, which is a governance aggregator. The concept of it is it accumulates voting power in the key DEX of the Neutron ecosystem. And the mission is to redirect liquidity incentives towards the projects, at least in that ecosystem that are launching. So a big part of it for us is actually trying to build out a bit of a hub or an ecosystem for token launches that are focusing more on sustainability, both pre-launch and post-launch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Simon, for sharing it. Actually, your product is extremely interesting for me personally, and I hope for our listeners too. So, how I see our conversation today and what is the main, I would say, agenda for our today's AMA session is just to have the easy and convenient conversation, talk about our projects, talk about the market in general, share some interesting insights, and at the end of this AMA, give our listeners the microphone to be able to ask some of the questions. How do you feel about it, Simon?
Speaking. I love speaking, so that's not going to be a problem, I think.
All right, sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. So let's maybe start with introduction and vision. Like you already touched the point of Eclipsify and your general idea, but maybe you can give us a little bit more about like core principles that you guys use to guide your platform forward.
Yeah, that's a good question for sure. I mean, I think one of the biggest things that when we looked at the space and we looked at token launches in general, was that token launches are an important part of crypto. They're an important part of obviously you have a lot of projects that have been building. They have tokens and they're looking to get those tokens into the hands of communities or users or distributing out into the market. You also have like, I guess, like the bootstrapping elements of tokens, like fundraising and kind of creating pipelines for the next or projects that are going to decentralize, and they're going to form a key part of either DeFi or other ecosystems. And so token launches have been like a really, really important part of it. What we really investigated over a period of time was that token launches were really challenging for founders in many ways, and I feel like different groups of founders or builders have different issues when it comes to token launches, but they've been problematic nonetheless. A lot of projects ask the question like, how do I actually launch and distribute my token? And there's different goals typically attributed to that. Sometimes it's to raise capital. Sometimes it's to decentralize a network. They're looking to attract community members. There's a whole wide range of reasons why one would launch a token. And we found there was very challenging for founders to navigate the murky waters of predatory actors and really figure out what is the best way to actually launch the token and how do I reach the goals? Like, how do I attract quality communities? How do I raise, if you need to raise capital, how do I attract liquidity for the token? How do I bootstrap liquidity? How do I get it in a way that's going to still lead to long-term sustainability or still not kind of work against the project? And so, one of the big founding principles that we followed is, how do we build something new? How do we build something that actually puts people and consumers and customers and community first, as well as projects? Like, how do we help to be on behalf of the projects and the community, as opposed to having just being kind of like a center point for predatory actors to come and extract value, which has been a lot of token launches have really revolved around that. So I think that from that perspective has really driven us of how do we like stay community led? How do we build something that is long term as opposed to something that just set up to extract value? And that's guided us a long way, and it guides the future vision of Eclipse The vision for us is to build like a launch hub or a liquidity hub that really focuses on being able to support good builders, quality builders, and really gives and brings back opportunities to communities, which is what crypto, came about in the first place.
Yeah, I love how you said that you love to be on behalf of the projects, and basically, from what I see, it literally explains the vision of Eclipsefy. So it's extremely cool how deep you're trying to dive into the project and understand the issues that they have and trying to help them solve this issue. So basically, it is extremely interesting, and how we can, like, I would love to dive a little bit deeper into the features that you guys have. What are the primary features and services that you offer to your users, and how these features help your your actual projects to get launched quicker?
Yeah, good question. So we've got a couple things coming along. So we at the moment we've launched our we have the main token launch platform, which is live on Neutron, which does tap into some multi-chain elements as well through IBC. We were working on further cross-chain integrations, but we've pushed that a little bit further back in the roadmap because we feel that there's a few key pieces that are more, I guess, more immediate than that. We've been working on Equinox. So Equinox is the one that we're really excited on, and which is the governance aggregator platform built on top of Astroport on Neutron. The concept of that for us that really ties into like supporting launches, at least from like a liquidity perspective, is these projects upcoming on Cosmos and Neutron that are going to list their token on dexes, and there's definitely the issue of liquidity post launch. And the concept for Equinox for us is to actually give us power and control of a lot of the, I guess, the liquidity hub of the ecosystem or incentives, so that we can redirect that towards projects post launch. I think behind the scenes, like a lot of stuff we've been able to offer projects until now has been very strong on marketing support, strategy, introductions, just really being able to navigate that whole pre-launch piece, which is definitely challenging. But moving forward, we're definitely bringing together. We're bringing forward like multitude of different launch mechanisms, and we've got a couple of things in the pipeline as well that should make that all contribute towards better launches overall.
All right, all right. And basically, like, also, I have the question, and I was always asking it to the launch pads I was communicating with, because I think it's one of the most crucial things, because technology is extremely important, and how you actually communicate and make business with projects is the crucial thing. But the second crucial thing is how you engage community into it. So, may I ask you how exactly you guys building the community around, and I would say hitting people's interest up?
Yeah, so we actually changed tact with this. Like, I guess like earlier on, we had we have a pretty large network of like KOLs, and so we're pretty heavy on the KOL front. We quickly realized that I mean, as much as KOLs are important, and they still continue to be important, somewhat there was like a lot of mercenary practices that came around that. And so what ended up happening is you can build communities quickly, but sometimes that can kind of not really be reflective of building like a real community. So we did bring a lot of people around. We grew quite a strong base, and then realized that like KOLs was is important. It still is an important part of like I guess increasing community, increasing exposure. But there's a lot of like fundamentals or foundational elements that need to come into play to be able to really build out a community. So I think like there's been a couple things that we've been focusing on quite recently in terms of building community, and we've got some incredible marketing community guys that are really helping to put the foundations in place. And it really comes down to like educating around your product, adding value, like educations both to projects and to users around not just your own product, but everything that surrounds that, the local ecosystem. So we're really setting up like a lot of connections with every project in the ecosystem, different NFT communities, different range of communities, smaller creators. We want to onboard a lot more kind of smaller niche KOLs than the previous larger ones that we had. Um, there's a lot of I guess there's a lot of creating a sense of identity, belonging within the community as well, adding games, adding quests, campaigns, engagement campaigns. And so we've been sort of working on the foundational elements of that. We've revamped the ambassador program. So focusing on the foundation, and then we've got like a whole range of various creative campaigns that we're kicking into gear to kind of rebuild out those foundations and bring belonging. So there's definitely a lot of moving parts, but we've definitely rethought the way that like the foundational community has to be very strong. And it's not just numbers, right? I'd rather have like 1,000 very, very tapped in community members as opposed to like 100,000 mercenaries. And so that's definitely been a change of tact for us.
Amazing, Simon. I love how actually you trying to engage your community and pushing them forward with that. Because from my personal perspective, as I already said, it's one of the most crucial things for the Launchpad to actually make people who are checking the news every day, who are just sitting there and pushing and pushing and pushing and getting excited about each project that are getting launched on your platform. And so, actually, the thing that I also wanted to ask you is, what is the life cycle? I would say, what is the how to say it. I would ask it the way, what happens after Eclipse 5? So basically, since the projects go through your platform and then get launched, like what is the usual framework for them to continue? Like how exactly they perform after getting listed?
Yeah, so that depends on a range of factors. And I think for projects when launching through a launchpad, launching through Eclipsify, one of the most important things.
I'm sorry, Simon, I cannot hear you right now. Could you please check your connection, maybe? Because I hear just a pure silence at the
Hello?
moment. Oh, yeah, you're back. And silence once again. I'm sorry.
Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yes, yes. Now it's the moment. Yeah, dear listeners, extremely sorry for the conditions that we have right now. Simon is on the island, so basically for him, the internet connection is quite unstable. I hope he'll be back in just a couple of seconds. And in the time, maybe we can go for a question from the audience. So, guys, anyone something quick to ask? I see Zadok has already asked. Dear host, could you please give Zadok the opportunity to speak? Oh, say something so we will
I can hear you
hear you or
now, but
not.
it's breaking up a bit. I can hear you now, but it's breaking up a little bit.
Like a
Man, Twitter's hating us today.
Okay, please wait for Dimitri.
All right. Third try, third breakup. I'm so sorry.
Number 5, no.
Simon, don't you have Elon Musk's number? I think we should call him and definitely say that X is not working
Oh,
properly.
oh man, I think it's been like that for some time, but
Yeah,
well.
like my recent spaces, they all like a nightmare just because like you cannot hear the speakers, you cannot do anything. So I hope the rest of our AMA will be okay. So Simon, let's get back to the topic that we were actually discussing.
Yeah,
Uh
let me
yeah, I
finish the
wanted
question. Let me finish that question because I was sort of
sure.
halfway between
Yep.
answering that before. So I think it's really important post token launch for projects to have quite a lot of I guess like releases or partnerships upcoming. I think the engagement really depends on the project being launched, the ecosystem that it's in. As much as possible, like we really want to be helping to ensure that projects launching, it's not just kind of a launch and go. We really want our community quite engaged with that project from the get go. So really like ensuring that as soon as the project launches, the community is using the product, they're engaging with the platform. If there's opportunities for partnership and working together from like integrations or long-going partnerships, that's going to be really important after the token launch. Because that's going to be, sort of the launch excitement's going to happen, and then that does die off after a little bit of time. And you want to make sure that you're quite synced up, and you make sure you've got like a decent roadmap and communication happening straight after launch. So that's important. I think it's even stronger within the ecosystem. So it's why we're focusing a little bit more on Neutron Cosmos right now, is that it's easier to have that effect in terms of if you launch like a Neutron project, it's a lot easier for that community to be cross-referenced between multiple different platforms and create like an effect than it is with just launching a lot of different multi-chain platforms. I think that's definitely the challenge of multi-chain launches, and I think for us, we're still going to keep doing multi-chain launches for sure. But we really want to focus heavily on building an ecosystem and just ensure that we can launch like several products that are different, that add value, they're quality, and that the users can kind of be plugged into multiple platforms and use multiple of them. I think that's going to be really important for us, especially because communities tend to like flock to ecosystems. So you might have KOLs or communities within ecosystems. So we found that, but it's definitely more challenging when you're looking at kind of multi project. If you're launching a project on Solana and your multi-chain launchpad, like it's definitely harder, that post-launch thing going on.
Oh yeah, that's true. And the thing about roadmap, like I personally see that all the projects can get launched like as soon as they stick to their roadmap and actually provide what they actually said that they're gonna provide, then the community is getting hyped, as you said, more and more partnerships, getting all the cloud, I would say, from all around just to push with your media presence and just to push with your user base to make people really involved in your project, make use it and be, I would say, very deep in that. And I also wanted to ask you, like, when it comes to the general DeFi space, and like I would say, seeing the whole picture, what do you think is possible in decentralized finance space? So basically, for those who are not that deep into DeFi, which kind of opportunities it opens up for the people?
Oh man, you're gonna get me on a ramp. You're gonna get me on a ramble. Now, I'm a hyperbole of DeFi, not necessarily in its present state, but I was around early DeFi summer, and went through different DeFi ecosystems. One that I was involved in, I thought that was even though people have mixed opinions about, like Terra was actually a really wonderful DeFi ecosystem to be a part of, because the way that it like kind of worked together with different strategies and applications all working pretty well together was quite amazing to see. What excites me a lot about DeFi is, there's been a lot of talk of like real world assets and RWAs. we've come a long way in terms of like DeFi infrastructure, even though that certain points of DeFi just kind of like the same money market copied over and over and many dexes. If you look at it as a whole and you look at, there's perp protocols, hopefully in the future we'll have like options protocols, even platforms like Mars Protocol or others creating um, cross margin systems where you can use different kinds of positions for leverage. I think it's all going to be important because I think if you look at traditional financial systems, they've created this like whole web of different types of applications and strategies and protocols that all of them are based around leverage in some capacity, right? You're leveraging up assets to create more money and to create strategies and to hedge and to do all sorts of things to create kind of full strategies and portfolios. And that's been quite hard to do in DeFi. And you've had like money markets where you've had to put in like, 1 ETH to borrow like half an ETH, and this kind of stuff has made it challenging. But I think the more we expand and the more we kind of expand the capabilities of credit and cross margin systems and risk engines, like we can kind of create all sorts of like complex strategies that, for everyday users, they might sound over the top and heavily complex. But what makes it really exciting is that, you might be able to offer like more simplified tools to end users that lower the barriers and the intermediaries that you would typically have in traditional finance. Like it might be harder to get,
Hmm.
it might be harder to, you got more kind of intermediaries and steps within TradFi in creating like these strategies, and DeFi is going to help make some of that maybe more accessible to the everyday people. And so that excites me, and it excites me the fact that once RWAs are more on chain, there's more stuff like you'll be able to kind of bring those into the mix, and things will get quite exciting. So yeah, it's a bit of a nerding out, but I'm really excited about where this can really go once things are working together. But I think the enemy of this is, I mean, there's a few people working on this, is just how fractured the space has gotten in many ways, and liquidity. If everything is split across 50 money markets or 100 money markets, it becomes a lot harder to do this rather than having like stronger concentration.
Yeah, I fully agree with you here, and I love how DeFi and CeFi are getting more and more connected. So right now, DeFi I would say is getting easier and easier, because before I remember that learning something about DeFi and trying to use D apps was like a nightmare. You literally couldn't understand what the hell is happening in this app and how to properly use it. And now projects are moving forward in the direction of having it more and more user friendly, getting it simpler, and like I love this idea of making DeFi accessible even for your grandma. And I hope that within the time it actually gonna be like that. So all the people who are not even that deep and educated when it comes to decentralized finance gonna be able to use D apps and be a part of this community. And what do you actually think? Because we connecting DeFi and CeFi right now pretty well, and the whole market is being pointed at this thing. But actually, like, there is still traditional finance market. And what do you generally think about the connection of crypto world and traditional finance? Like, because we all still somehow need to pay for our daily goods in the market, like in the shop, and go buy some cloths, pay for your gas, and so on and so forth. And how you personally do it, Simon?
I use the SEX still. I have an Indonesian centralized exchange, and so if I need to use stables, I can kind of go straight. It's pretty not too hard actually. It's pretty simple for me. But I mean, like it really depends. Like so, it depends how you look at like DeFi. Like to me, DeFi is kind of complex financial strategies, or like um the ability for people to build wealth and to access I guess like investment opportunities and wealth building and that side. I guess you could kind of maybe batch like payments back into like DeFi, like you kind of have like cross-border payments, like stable coins, the ability to send money from Europe to the US. um, but I think there's definitely separation, and people separate this anyway in traditional finance between money that is intended for wealth building or savings or investments versus money that they keep in their bank accounts. Like, sure, there's a number of the population that are putting money into like savings, and they're like, hey, I keep my money in the bank and I'm getting 3% on it. And so I guess like that's definitely going to be amazing when you can have the savings application with the payment where people can park their money into savings, well, and then still pay. and still be earning interest on that. But I think like maybe more complex DeFi or kind of more wealth building investment is still going to be slightly separate from that, right? And as it should be. So yeah, I think there's definitely, when you talk about crypto, talk about Web3, talk about blockchain, there's definitely multiple elements. I think um, DeFi is kind of got like, I guess there's a scale of it, right? Like there's a difference between using a savings account versus going and doing a complex, strategy that does hedging and stuff that's typically done,
Yeah.
more kind of managed in Web 2. But I think there's also the opportunity to bring simplified things to the surface in terms of like people don't need to know all the complex elements of finance behind the scenes. They just need to know kind of where to put their money and then how to move it. So I guess, so to come back to it, I guess what might be amazing with this is once we have accounts that can easily be paid from DeFi, but then you can quickly move your money to somewhere where it's earning yield or in a stable way or can add on more risk. So like portfolio managements that can then move that into like spending quicker. That could be pretty cool.
But don't you think that, like still while being in DeFi is quite complicated to actually spend your crypto? Because we actually have the approach that more kind of centralized thing is still an easier way because you don't have to bother you with any kind of gas commissions, checking your wallets, doing multiple procedures just in order to get some cash on your card, but basically just use some kind of more centralized solution in order to just make it quicker.
But what do you mean? Like, so the question there is like, am I looking to spend my crypto or like how does that work? Because when I think about this, like I want to keep my investments separate from my spending in some capacity, right? Like I
Oh
have my
yeah, of course.
investments over here and my spending.
Let's say it this way, maybe. Like, I've heard that you're in Bali right now and recently had an accident with your foot. And let's say, what would you be actually interested in having crypto card that allows you to put any of your crypto onto the hybrid wallet where your balance gets directly connected to your crypto card? So let's say you have, I don't know, some X amount of Pepe, let's say, so you basically just put it on your wallet and still holding it, but you can go to the closest medical store or to the hospital and pay for your medical needs with your crypto. So basically, just opening this crypto card up, pinging it to the terminal, and get your services paid, but still holding the Pepe.
But is it selling the Pepe for me to spend it?
Uh, Sorry,
Is
could you repeat because I
is it
couldn't hear you
selling?
well?
Is it the selling the Pepe for me to send it? And this might be an avatar thing. Like I'm someone who invests and typically holds for long periods of time, and so I do keep I guess my spending and my investing or assets quite separate. So I'm kind of happy that my crypto is over here on this over on the side where I'm not touching it. Like I don't want to use my illiquid asset to buy something in the store. Like I'm gonna have if I need cash or whatever, and I've got an investment strategy for exiting. I'm going to have that, but typically I'm going to sit on it and I'm going to, wait. I'm not typically not going to spend with something that isn't USDC if I was to spend with an asset. Maybe Bitcoin in the future, but typically I tend myself. This is just myself. Like tend to be like more okay. I'll have stables for spending, but my crypto like is for investing or staking or DeFi strategies.
Yeah, actually, I really I respect this kind of strategy. I personally do the same. So everything that is not in stables are not for spendings, but everything that is in stable is for spending. But like, let's say you have the thing that you're holding a bunch of meme coins, which you don't know which of them are actually gonna pop up and which not gonna pop up. So basically, you're just holding them on your wallet, and whenever you need to spend some small portion of it, you can just connect your meme coin balance to the card and go and pay with it. So let's say you need like $100 in Pepe, and you can just basically spend your Pepes, but still hold the rest of your wallet balance. Does it sound like something which gonna make your life easier at some points of time? Just because you don't have to go transfer it, like you don't need to exchange it to stable coins, then put it to exchange, then withdraw it to your debit card, but just basically connect your token balance and go pay with it.
I think it depends on the market. I think it's less something that I would potentially use, but it depends. Like I would look at two things, like market cycle. If we're the top of a bull market, and I've got tons of assets that I can't be stuffed, that might be something I do. But also, I'm very mindful of slippage and liquidity, right? So if I go out and spend $5,000 on a medical appointment, like if it's my illiquid meme coin, I want to ensure that I'm not, I'm not going to spend something that's going to get me wrecked. Like we're like, okay,
Yeah.
80% slippage on this meme coin because I've spent it. I'm quite mindful of like my entries and exits out of positions and like I tend to look at like the liquidity depth. I tend to like sometimes I'll space out transactions if I'm looking to sell an asset, especially in these markets when there's just very, very limited liquidity. $1,000 can move the price pretty heavily.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But actually, like getting secured and getting the assurance that there will be no slippages and you actually gonna get it sold on the proper price is a very important thing. And this is actually what we building here in KOLO. We actually providing the service where people can spend any kind of crypto from their crypto card, and yeah, it's coming very soon. And I'm the adept of spending your stable coins. I don't like to spend any of my assets that I'm holding because since I got the access to my assets that are actually on hold and I am able to spend them, I'm definitely going to spend them. So it's always better to have some limitations for yourself just to basically have it split. So here we have something that we hold, and here we have something that we spend, but actually still having the opportunity to deposit anytime any of the tokens and get them connected sounds like a really, really cool idea. So we will see since the card are going to be live, and definitely we also gonna send one for you, Simon, so you can use it all over the world and be able to spend your cryptos easily. And in the meantime, I also have a couple of more questions coming to Eclipse 5 before we actually give the microphone to our listeners out here. So we've been fighting in KOLO with regulatory compliances a lot. Like we spent over 2.5 years on building the whole legal infrastructure and making sure that we are covered from all the costs. And how does Eclipse Fi navigate the regulatory space in the DeFi space? And basically, are there any specific compliance measures that adhere to?
Yeah, definitely. That's a very painful one for a lot of crypto projects for sure, and it's important
Oh
to make sure
yeah.
you've got this. Yeah, I think one of the big ones for us, especially around like token launches, is first off making sure you're getting like legal opinions. So like projects that come in and launch on the platform have to, have their own documentation and legal opinions just to ensure that tokens aren't classified as securities and they're kind of following all the right regulation elements. And so this is something that a lot of centralized exchanges um, fall into. There's also like I guess a lot of like regulation around the way that we structure the platform as a protocol. So it's more of a service agreement platform that the projects are agreeing to essentially uh, they're essentially like renting the platform or they're using the platform themselves if we look at the tech. So it's kind of there's some intricacies around that stuff. And then there's obviously been like I guess like KYC side of things and ensuring that we don't there's certain jurisdictions that we've had to exclude just due to some of the issues in those countries. Either there's like I guess sanctions in those countries, or it's just like the US, and avoiding any issues with that. So yeah, they're sort of the main ones. Is that like there's a fair few other like pieces, and there's quite a lot of legal stuff in the way that things are set up. And we've got our CFO who's on that, and who's quite on top of all the legal stuff. I'm more likely to break stuff, where he's more likely to make sure that everything's above board. But yeah, it's definitely important.
Oh yeah, like, and it's really cool that you guys are mostly covered from all the sides, and that you're feeling very confident in your legal side, just because there are very many exciting crypto projects that just didn't do well with their legal side and then faced a lot of consequences from that. So I'm really happy to hear that you guys have it all structured well. And maybe the last thing from my side, and also very important one, is the question of your future roadmap. Like, what do you guys plan? What exciting do you plan to launch? Maybe some interesting community incentives, maybe something else. Like, what are you hiding? What gonna happen?
There's some alpha that I'm not going to release, but we've got a couple products and things that are underway at the moment, especially with like Equinox sort of coming towards its final pieces of completions. We're working on a few things on the current roadmap. We're looking to release new launch mechanisms pretty soon. Going to introduce this is alpha actually. I don't think I've released this. Going to introduce like multiple different like due diligence tiers where we can kind of be a little bit more flexible with different types of projects to launch, like whether it's flagship or more community based projects. And then we're currently been in research phases for quite some time now for a whole new product, I guess, suite that we've been looking to build, and that's not been announced yet. So that will be something soon, but we'll be announcing a new roadmap fairly soon. And the goal for us is to kind of expand our product offerings. Still going to link it back into launches in many ways, but it's going to be able to kind of expand what we're able to offer to people and really focusing a lot on, I guess, like still what the Launchpad stands for, which is increasing opportunities for users, and kind of making that more variable based on people's risk profiles and things like that as well. So there's some exciting stuff like that I'm excited to bring forth in the future.
All right, Simon, that sounds amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, for answering all the questions that I got. I think it was an extremely insightful conversation. We brought a lot of good information to our listeners. And right now, let's give a couple of opportunities for our daily listeners to get the microphone and ask some questions. So, dear host, could you please choose somebody from our listeners who is raising their hand right now, so they will get the microphone and be able to ask anything that they have on their mind.
Okay, I think we can start with Sparta.
All right, so at Niklaus ISCO, you got the mic now, so feel free to unmute it and ask anything that you have on your mind.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you,
All right.
sir.
My question is, how do you plan to educate and onboard new users, particularly those who are new to crypto or token launches, and ensure that they have positive experience on the platform? Thank you.
Yeah, really, really good question, actually. This is something that I'm really personally passionate about. Actually, personally built the education for the Terra ecosystem back in the day. I know that's a that's a whole can of worms, but we've funded to build a learn to earn platform, and so onboarding new users outside of crypto is something I'm passionate about. Recently, it hasn't been our largest focus just due to the fact that like the market has been quieter from a retail perspective. But we are working on educational resources at the moment where we'll be targeting, I guess, like different levels of understanding to onboard users into crypto. We do still have plans for account abstraction onboarding, so just ensuring that it's integrated so that new users coming in don't have to go through those like um, multiple heavy levels of like DeFi onboarding, as many have experienced who've been in the space for a long time. So that's definitely on the map. But again, it hasn't been the priority focus just due to the fact that retail has largely been outside of the market and it's mostly been activating and onboarding communities that are already in the space till recently. But definitely like education is something that we're not something that we're very knowledgeable about, and something that will definitely ensure that we have the right education and onboarding for various levels of understanding as we build. And as we build over time, we will make the UX more simplified for new users to understand and engage with the platform better.
All right. Thank you very much. That is awesome.
Okay, so we are continuing with Enzo.
Yeah, at Enzo BMB1. You just got your microphone. You can unmute yourself and ask anything that you have in your mind.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, Enzo, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you for bringing me up. My question is, community support is one of the most important aspects of a project success. So how do you plan to attract more users, expand your community globally? Thank you.
Is this to me? Yep. So yeah, well, we kind of touched on this question a little bit before. Like we mentioned that we had definitely like a a very strong approach around KOL base. We do have a pretty strong KOL network, but we found like very specifically that there were challenges with using that model. Like we were able to expand the numbers of users that we had on a rapid rate, but we didn't. They weren't necessarily sticky users, or they weren't necessarily the right avenue that we wanted to build from a community perspective. So for us, like the focus over the last couple of weeks, over the last few months, is really about rebuilding community foundations so that we have a very strong user base. I'd much rather have 1,000 strong users or 100 strong users than a lot more users that are more mercenary. And so it's really come back down to like better understanding the users that we want to attract and our ideal users and community members to form that foundation. And we spent a lot of time putting together, I guess, like structures in place to like really engage and activate those. And so that's been a really big focus for us coming back, to that drawing board. The more you understand about obviously the users that use your platform, the better you can speak to them. And then when you can speak to them very well, then you can expand your marketing efforts. And so then it's like turning on more campaigns, more referral programs, uh, bringing KOLs back in, but just really ensuring that you have the sticky foundation base. Because if you don't have that foundation base, you can bring in 100,000 users, but those users might not be the right users or they might leave straight away. So that's one component. I think in terms of expanding global user bases, I think if you're a platform and you're looking to build out those user bases, you've built a strong foundation, it's really about identifying leaders in specific markets. I think if you want to expand into one specific country, like sure you've got to look for like KOLs or connections or media within those specific countries, but you'd really want to be within your community finding, is there anyone in your community from those countries that have strong leadership potential? Is there somewhere where I can find a market that those strong leaders in that market that you can really activate, and then running types of global ambassador programs that can really tap into like on the ground activation or activation. Because yeah, that's I mean there's a few ways of doing it, but I think that's the way that you would kind of expand a market, is through leaders. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Keep growing more support.
All
Okay.
right. Thank you so much, Enzo. Thank you so much for sharing your question. And thank you, Simon, for such detailed response. And I think we going to pick one last person from the listeners. So let me choose. Um I would love to give the microphone to Stella at Aziz Don 12. I'm giving you the speaker role. All right, you're the speaker right now. Hi, Stella.
Hi, can I ask a question?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, my question is, what step has social fit taken to ensure regularly compliance and user protection?
Could you please repeat your question because I think it couldn't be heard that well. And could you please also determine whom you asking this question to? Is it related to Simon or to myself?
Hello, sir.
Yes, Stella, can you hear me? Like, I just kindly ask you to repeat your question once again and determine which of the projects are you asking. Is it related to KOLO or to Eclipse 5?
Can I repeat my question?
Yes, sure.
Okay. What step has society taken to ensure regulatory compliance and user protection?
Yeah, so I think we talked about this before. So there's two parts to this question. I think I'll simplify that question. So, what is the paths that Eclipsify is taking for for like regulatory compliance and user protection? So there's a couple elements to this, right? So we talked about the compliance element before, which was really for us is ensuring that we've got the right system set up. So the platform is user licensing agreements as opposed to like we're not actually custodians, we're not handling funds. The platform is kind of licensed by the projects that are launching and using it as software. Elements like KYC, ensuring that specific countries and jurisdictions that have issues or sanctions aren't hit. I mean, there's a lot of stuff within the organization as well as a team that we're very cautious of. Like we're not talking about price and there's a whole bunch of things we can't talk about. That's always the fun stuff. From a user protection perspective, yeah, so you've got couple elements here. You have like security of contracts, which comes down to like auditing, like proper testing, proper auditing of contracts. So if there's any pools, if there's any kind of launches, just ensuring that your code base is like well audited. And so we've done audits with a lot of different auditors. So we've had Oak, we've had Holborn, we've had Zokyo, we've done a lot of that stuff. The other component of user protection comes down to ensuring that the projects that you're launching are not rug pulls, right? And that comes down to due diligence. And so you have like quite like I guess like quite thorough due diligence when it comes to like looking at KYC the founders behind the scenes, just ensuring that they're like docs, that they're real founders, looking into the projects, the code, a whole range of things just to be able to avoid um, projects rug pulling. Like we got things in the contracts just also to ensure that the right liquidity is supplied, and that it's that those kind of elements are in place so that there's no surprises. And so those things should catch most of it. I mean, there's always certain things when you're kind of investing or participating in early launches or startups. There's always kind of things that are hard to kind of get around, but overall there's definitely measures in place we put in place to ensure that we're launching good quality projects from that perspective. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. And yeah.
Yeah, and when it comes to KOLO, I think because this question could be related to both of us, we actually make sure that all our users are compliant. So basically, of course, everyone who tries to issue KOLO card goes through KYC. We do not support sanctioned regions, and we do not support the U.S. in order not to fight with the jurisdictions out there. And basically, we have a bunch of AML policies that make sure that all the funds that are coming to KOLO Wallet are transparent and clean, and that our users are not trying to make any kind of shadow deals using KOLO. So basically, we're just making sure that everyone who uses KOLO is as transparent as we are, and trying to give our cards a lead to the good people, I would say.
Amazing.
Stella, does it answer your questions in full? Could you please say?
Yes, thank you.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Stella, for asking your question. And I think it was the last question for today, unfortunately. Maybe the last question from my side to Simon will be, what would you recommend to somebody who's pretty new to crypto? Like, what would be like top three advices from Simon Chadwick when it comes to the new joiner of crypto?
Oh, just three. Oh man, that's
Yeah, just
oh
three.
wow.
Let's be very short.
Don't use leverage if you don't know what you're doing. Um,
Tell it to all the guys who were liquidated a couple of
yeah,
days
do
ago.
not use leverage. I would say that probably applies to a lot of the crypto space. Shouldn't be using leverage. They don't know how to hedge or anything as well. So don't use leverage. I've learned that the hard way. I would say have a longer term horizon in terms of investing, but also know when to take profits. So have a longer term perspective on your investing, longer term horizons in terms of like things don't happen overnight, but also know when it's like the top and we're in a crazy overblown bull for either a narrative or in terms of something, and definitely don't get overexposed.
All right, Simon. I think these are three really, really good advices, and I hope that all the people who are new gonna take them into consideration when they're gonna actually start with their crypto journey. And for now, I must say huge thanks to you, Simon, for joining us today, and huge thanks to Eclipse 5 for taking participation in this beautiful AMA session. It's our first AMA on Twitter ever, and I hope that our dear listeners got a lot of interesting insights from it. For me personally, I was really, really good conversation. I found out a lot from myself, and I hope that our listeners did too. Finish this AMA is just to tell all of you guys to always do your own research, to listen to three advices from Simon when it comes to what you should do in crypto space. Double check everything that you have, and let's just stay in touch. Check our KOLO updates because we are launching very, very soon. And also don't forget to go to Eclipse Fi's Twitter and to all other social medias. Check their platform and track their updates, because from what you heard from Simon today, a lot of interesting things are happening, so it's definitely an alpha. So
I've
guys,
got a final piece of advice actually I
yeah,
thought of
sure.
that's really important. Always use, if you're got your investments in a specific place, always use cold storage, like a ledger. Like I don't know how many times, like in my long 8 years in crypto, have I seen this happen of everyone thinks they're invincible around their investments, and all it takes is them clicking on the wrong site and it drains their wallet. So separate like where you're actively trading or actively moving money around versus sort of where your vaults are, your strategies are, your investments are. Make sure that those that's on a ledger, and you're not going to have any nasty surprises. So that's the last. That's probably the number one thing that I've seen over and over and over and over. Someone clicks a bad link and gets their wallet drained. Definitely not something you want.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. That's a very good piece of advice. So yeah, guys, everyone who's deep in crypto should have their hard wallet somewhere hidden. And I think on this positive note and in this really, really good advice, we can finish our first ever AMA session. Once again, thank you so much to everyone who was out here today with us. You guys are amazing. I love how active you are. I love the question. I love the reactions. And of course, Simon, you the best. Thank you so much for diving that deep with all the questions that I had and making this AMA not just an AMA, but the full podcast. So, once again, guys, wish y'all to have an amazing day today and hear from you probably in the next week or maybe a little bit later. Do your own research and stay KOLO. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us. See ya.
See ya, guys. Cheers.